All right, teammates, back again, back again. If it's your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, you guys already know what goes down. You hit the play button, which means you understand the expectation, what comes with this show, whatever your challenges, whatever your obstacles are, whatever you feel like is in the way of your success. We are here to indirectly tell you you are not going through it alone. Today, I have what I like to call a Renaissance man, an individual who absolutely does not take life for granted, has done absolutely everything you can possibly think of doing. You would never know, but it started from a deep place. It started from a place of principles. He has a company by the name of Samurai Success, Mr. David Olcott. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you doing? So excited about our conversation for today.
Yes, likewise, because as we were talking a little bit before I started recording, you actually grew up out here in South Florida,
I
and
did.
there were pieces of you, there were principles in which you had instilled growing up that you still value to this very day. So I think the best way to start off is just kind of give us a little bit about your background, how you grew up, and what are some of the major things that you've picked up growing up that led you to the success you have now.
So I grew up in the Florida Keys, those little dots on the end of Florida, right? Kind of thing, in a really
Well,
small
they do
town.
exist, yes.
Yeah.
There are actually places people live, folks.
Yeah, exactly. And I will tell you, if you haven't been there in your lifetime, please put it on your bucket list and get down there. It is magnificent. It is gorgeous. It is
In fact,
beautiful.
not to cut you off, but last year I was there for the first time. I was at that southernmost part of
Yeah.
Florida because I was on a cruise, and I will second that. It is an absolutely beautiful place to be.
Yes. It's funny because going down there vacationing, it's an absolute paradise, but there's a fable story, if you will. But you live there, it's kind of like living in hell. So you've got this really interesting contrast because it's so small and everybody knows your business and everything else like that.
Right.
So, I found out really, I'm quite the rebel. And I found out that everybody was doing a certain thing, and I wanted to do something different because I was a rebel. That's what rebels do. And I found out that I really could take advantage of understanding the Florida Keys because in the Florida Keys, everybody was coming down there to vacation. Everybody who had been from so many different places, man, from all over the world, and they were coming down to this centralized place to
Mhm.
vacation. And I was always in something service oriented, from drywall to insulation. But then I started getting involved in services where I was interacting with people. And it gave me this amazing opportunity, man, to be able to talk to them and I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was actually interviewing them. What made them so successful? And
Mhm.
those principles you were talking about earlier
Yeah.
that have driven me, have guided me to this place that I am today, came
Yeah.
from those conversations, man. Just having a conversation with people
Right.
on having a couple of drinks, half their clothes are off, and they're just being vulnerable, and they were sharing their life insights with me, and I took them very much to heart.
Yes, and that is very important what you're mentioning because I had an experience like that at 19 years old, and I was probably as low as I could possibly be. As a football guy, I just tore my ACL. This was the first time I was not going to be able to play, and I ended up working at a gym. However, the location of this gym was a place called South Bethesda in Maryland, where the manager told me when he hired me, he goes, "Look, some of the world's greatest entrepreneurs are walking in and out this club. So just, hey, how you doing? How was your workout? What are you working on today?" And having that conversation with them, it really built a lot of the things I'm doing now. And I'm curious now because those formative years, you don't necessarily learn that in the school system. There's no teacher coming down and saying, "Hey, you got to go and have a conversation with this person and develop your people skills." This is something that you actually as learned behavior. So as you're growing up, and you obviously went to FIU, I believe you got into realty as well. How were you sort of seeing the contract, the comparing and contrasting, where these are successful people coming to the Florida Keys, and then this is what I'm learning in the school system. Wait a minute, there's an imbalance here. We're gonna get into your, samurai success story because you talk a lot about balance, but before it actually came about, you were starting to see an imbalance in terms of this is like real successful people, millionaires coming to the Keys teaching me this, but I'm at this school and something else, something isn't, something isn't connecting. So, I'll let you kind of fill in the blank there.
Yeah, and that was the fascinating part to me was watching because in my growing up with my parents and learning through different school systems, I was always taught a singular principle:
Yes.
work harder.
Yeah.
Work hard. Okay, so I took that on. I mean, people were telling me work harder, so I did. I mean, I took it literally.
Right.
And it was fascinating to me because all those people I was meeting were also incredibly hard workers. And if you're going to meet someone who is truly a millionaire, they work. They
Yeah.
don't work this 40-hour, 35-hour part-time remote they are in it, man. They are
It,
fully immersed.
it is a
And that's
20
the first thing you have to understand about being successful. If you aren't willing to do that, then you can forget the rest of this stuff. So that
1000%,
work
man.
ethic is everything.
Right.
Great story about Walter Payton.
Hmm.
Wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the strongest. Everybody says that. But his quote always fascinated me because he always said, I wanted it more than they did.
Yes.
There it is. There's that work ethic. Now, if the work ethic alone was enough, my parents would have been the richest people on the planet.
Hmm.
They were so hardworking, man. They would give you their shirt off their back to be able to do things for you. I mean, they were everything you could think about from a principle driven good person. My parents were those.
Yeah.
Yet they weren't this millionaire. They weren't this wealthy individual. And maybe that wasn't their path, but they struggled with money most of their lives. And I
Right.
was like, what's the difference between that group of people that I don't see being good people
Hmm.
and my parents working their butt offs and being really good people? There was this contrast, this gap that you talked about. And
Right.
I was fascinated by that. I was
Hmm.
like driven, obsessed with it. And I still am today. What is the difference?
Right.
And today we know that is something called programming.
Yes.
Your beliefs about all these things, including money, drive your ability to create things, manifest things. And
Right.
I had no idea of that connection
Mhm.
until I started down this path.
Right.
But this path has shown me that my beliefs about money is actually what's creating my experience of that money.
Right. And I'll just show you. One of the things that's on your resume is your connection with Tony Robbins, right? And my second book, I titled it because of an event that I went to that was hosted by the Unleash the Power Within, where you go, make your move, make your move, make your move. And then this book came out, Make Your Move. And you actually have worked with him. And I'm so glad you brought this up because this is one of the things I really wanted to pick your brain about. And I want the listeners to grab a hold of this is you mentioned that no one is who they are. Like you don't go out and say, I'm going to discover who I am. You said life is something that you create. You are somebody that you create. You don't go out and say, okay, I'm going to be this person, but you're going to go create the life you want. And then what you had mentioned about your money mindset, I had another experience that is like spot on. Like this was back, and I've done a lot of work in fitness and athletics. And I had a college age kid tell me one time I'd be happy with $70,000 a year. He said it directly to me. You could see the area he was in. You could see the just the context, and you can sort of get why he said that. But one of the things that I learned just picking up and preparing for this is that you said by 7 years old, our mindsets now can be trapped. Our mindsets can lead us down a path that we're not even realizing as programming. So can you speak a little bit to that, especially because there's a lot of business owners that tune into my show, how they can fight that principle, how they can fight that, I'm just going to be okay being mediocre element that is just it's all over the place. It's rampant.
So getting down to the quick of it, man, this is about moving swiftly. So let's get down to it.
Yes, sir.
Can't fight it.
Hmm.
There is no fight. You have lost the fight.
Wow.
Can't embrace it.
Oof. Yeah, you don't see it, but the goosebumps are actually coming in. Because that's been my problem, and there's a lot of people's problem. We want to fight it. When we come
With
in,
you.
yeah, when we come into this awakening, and I actually remember him saying this during that I went to the conference like 5 years ago. When you come into this awakening, that's your initial reaction because you're so upset and you realize how much you can actually do when you get yourself out of that mental hell. And then fighting it is where so much of it is like it's tough. But that's a great point, man.
Well, I congratulate you on so many different fronts, but let me tell you, being in the seminar industry, I found out very quickly that only 3% of people that go to the best seminars, and by the way, I've been to so many programs. I haven't been to all of them, obviously, but the ones I've been to, there is no better program that I've ever been to in my life in a seminar setting than Tony Robbins. Zero, not even close. It's a rock star, get going.
Yeah.
And
You did
that
the fire?
man,
Did you do the firewalk?
well, yeah, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact, I was a field sales representative. And just so you know, in Maui, it's a 40-foot
Oh man, you went to the
firewall.
Maui. Okay, all right.
Yes.
There you go.
So, the 12-foot, 16-foot, 20
Yeah,
foot,
yeah.
40 feet of
Oh
cool
my God.
moss.
Yeah, you gotta break. Yeah, you gotta break
Gotta
some.
get
Yeah,
the line.
that's you said 40 feet.
40
Man.
feet.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that's intense.
And the amazing part about is that this embracing of this concept really comes from that only 3% of people that actually go to those programs actually apply anything from that.
Right.
So welcome to the 3%, man, because you did something about it. You wrote a book about it. It hit you so hard. And that's the beauty of this programming thing, because once you hear that you can't fight it, you embrace it. And
Mm-hmm.
what you do with that is you blend with it. And that's a martial art that I study called Aikido, and it's about blending and things like this, as opposed to, you hit me, I hit you, Taekwondo, karate, whatever kind of other martial arts, be, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, whatever. It's about this embracement of this
Mm-hmm.
idea and realizing you actually are in control of that. And that's the great news about your programming. Even though you're run by your program, you have control over it. And that's what we teach here at Samurai Success, is that we give you back that power and that responsibility about how to change that.
Mm-hmm.
So from a neuroscience perspective, what we understand about this so far is that everything that you're manifesting in this physical realm comes from you,
Mm-hmm.
your experience of that. Now, you're not creating the event of it, you're
Mm-hmm.
creating the experience of the event of it.
Yes.
So, quite a few years ago, there was a movie that came out and a book that came out. It was called The Secret, and everybody went crazy about it,
I read that. I
including me.
was
I had
on.
read it, I went to the movies and stuff like this. And yet, I applied as much as I possibly could, and it didn't work. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, what is happening? There's something else that has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sought the master, Abraham, through that and actually going to programs with
Right.
Esther Hicks and going to those programs, I started hearing something different. The universe doesn't provide the thing for you. Like if I really want the beautiful Porsche 911 Turbo S, my dream car kind of stuff, it doesn't create that. It creates the opportunity for
Right.
you to experience that.
Right.
And that's the game that we're playing with the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Then what's my part in that? And my part in that is my programming. That
Right.
programming is my manifestation, because 5% of my ability to manifest comes from my conscious part of my brain. 95% of my ability to manifest those opportunities and those experiences come from my subconscious part of my brain. This is where your programming exists.
Right.
Being into that changes everything.
Right. So the thing about it too is, and I'm glad you brought it up because a lot of people don't recognize the subconscious things that they're doing. We could probably sit up here and talk for an hour about folks and may even use ourselves as an example and things that we don't realize that we do. But when you mention samurai success, and as we're learning this, at some point you have to bring it to a market. You have to turn it into a business in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Can you speak, because like the logo that, if you're watching this on video, you guys see the logo behind them. I for years thought that this was just a boomerang. I really did. But when you started describing, yeah, when you started describing learning jujitsu and the balance that comes with it, it started making me think of how I teach boxing lessons, and I'm teaching them to kind of stay square and know how to move and all that kind of stuff. Can you just give us a brief overview on some of your jujitsu training, and then how you were able to eventually translate that into something that's an actual profitable business?
So my martial art background came when I was really young. I was actually growing up the Keys, and I
Mhm.
got bullied, right? So I was like, okay, I've had enough of this.
Oh,
And so I was like, okay, so what do I do? So I started off with Shotokan Karate,
mhm.
and my instructor was world class, world champion. I don't know how he was down in the Florida Keys, but there was four of us in the class. That was it. And
Now,
so I had
is this
just
middle school years or elementary school years?
I was 12 and 13 when I joined.
Yeah, that's
So
yeah,
real young, right?
right,
And that really had a profound thing. I actually stopped because his wife was in the class, and during one of the exercises, he got frustrated and kicked and broke her arm. And I was like, whoa, this is too much for me, kind of stuff. I need to be able to do something different.
right.
What I didn't know is that that stuff happens in life. He didn't mean to do that, but that's what happens when you're in fights.
This is his wife that who do you kick? He kicked it's just
Yeah,
Wait a
who
minute.
happened to be a
Well,
student.
I had to make sure I
Yeah,
heard that correctly.
yes. So it
Oh
was a
goodness, yes,
traumatic
good. You see
moment,
that
right?
right?
It's
It
like,
just you
he'll
know
do
how
that
some
to her. What's
delayed.
he going to do to me?
Yeah, it delayed. Like I had to have myself go. Wait a minute. Did he say his wife that he kissed? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happened. And
All
my arm
right.
was broken. So, I mean, I stayed for a couple more months and then I was out.
Right. Now she was okay with that, or I guess that's just how they.
I guess that's how their relationship
That's
was. So
how
I
it works.
don't
All
know
right.
the dynamics.
We'll let it go. We'll let it go. All right.
So I learned really quickly that I wanted to be able to learn an art that was different from you hit me, I hit you, and whoever hits hardest
Yeah.
wins. And that was the great translation because in business, you do that. You watch people in corporations, they
Mhm.
use this bullying technique. It isn't always physical, it's mental, emotional, right? Those kind of things, even spiritual,
Yeah.
legal. And they do this, I'm gonna do this. It's called the game of leverage.
Hmm.
And I wanted to do something different. And I became fascinated with the samurai and the art of Aikido. So the art of Aikido is very different from you hit me, I hit you. It's fierce,
Hmm.
but it's about blending things.
Right.
And that blending thing was really fascinating to me because as a samurai, if you lost your weapon in warfare, you couldn't block another person swinging a sword at you because you'd lose your arm, or you couldn't kick them. You had to be able to figure out how to blend with someone who had that weapon. So imagine someone coming full force with you with a sword or a weapon or something like this, and you're
Right.
able to blend with that energy.
Hmm.
That's the fascinating part. If you take that metaphor and you start applying that to coaching, you start realizing when your clients, when they fiercely come at you with their programming and their belief systems about this is the way it is,
Yeah.
you blend with that strategy and
Right.
you accept that so that you embrace it.
Right.
And once you embrace it, then you can deal with it.
Right. At what point do you I guess at what point are you able to figure out how to take control? Because that ego element I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I know this is the way it's done. I know everything there is to know about business because I have some degree at some university. That is something that a lot of people have, and it's so hard to break their mindset. At what point are you able to at least control it? Like, can you give us some examples in terms of how you're able to control? Because this is years of programming, years of schooling, years of certifications. I have this that's coming at you, and then you're just telling them, hey, do it like this, and it'll be a benefit or more beneficial for you. But they're so stuck in their own ways that there needs to be a level of cooler heads prevail sort of thing.
So control is one of those really fascinating words that you and I have to really discern with, right? That just says there's influence, there's management of something, and there's control of something. So what I realized, what was really in control after all these years of training
Mhm.
was my programming. My subconscious programming was really in control. And I'm telling you because of someone who is like, I'm aware of this, and yet it's still in control.
Mhm.
So when you're driving along and someone cuts you off, your response or your reaction is coming from that programming. But most people don't know that because that's the same thing that happens with opportunity. When
Right.
opportunity shows up, you are pre-programmed to either recognize it, see it, do anything with it, or just walk away. You are pre-programmed to
Mhm.
be able to do that. The good news, the control that we're talking about, is that you can reprogram that to then take advantage of those opportunities.
Right.
So that's the real control factor that I discovered that says once that programming is in there, you're going to follow that programming. You can hit that as much as you want, right? That return button. It's always going to use that default printer. If you
Right.
don't want to use that default printer, you've got to change the settings in your computer to be able to go to another computer or another printer.
Right.
Same thing happens with your brain, your hardware of your brain and your software, your verbiage. That's controlling all these experiences, these events.
Mhm.
And you can take control of that by working this process to be able to take control of that programming.
Right. So now as you do that and then I mean you have the business side and I could see where it works from a business perspective because eventually these stubborn business owners, eventually you're going to run out of profits. You're going to start to see, hey, something I need help, I need a client. But when you look to transition this to now maybe your personal life and try to start to build a family and maybe the relationship that you may be having with a spouse, whether it's romantically, a friendship, and just having a group of people around you. How are you able to use this kind of stuff when you're looking at stuff that's maybe outside of work and raising a family and all those kinds of things?
What's beautiful about we
Mhm.
tend to separate things, right? This is, oh, it's personal,
Yeah,
and then
that's
there's
why it's
business.
personal business. You hear that all that's never resonated with me, by the way.
Exactly. And by
That's
the
just
way,
like,
you're
come on.
wise to have that not resonate with you because we separate things to understand them. But once you understand them and
Right.
you move into comprehension and application, you've got to pull them back together. If you're
Hmm.
going to move into application, you've got to take what's separate and you got to put it back together. Once you do that, then you can move into true application of something. If you don't, if you keep them separate, you're always going to be frustrated with the gaps between things.
Exactly.
So pulling them back together allows for application. All right. So now we're here at application. We're wanting to be back in control of those things. I will tell you my journey to this was very much like most of my clients, which is I had to struggle through it.
Mm.
Because of my programming, I didn't see that there was another opportunity. And so I did the whole ego thing, man. I went to work with, I was in politics, I was in the law, I was in banking, I was doing all these crazy wild things to an extreme of living on Miami Beach,
Mm.
selling to all those celebrities that were coming and buying real estate there. I was driving, a several $100,000 car. I was living in a $30 million mansion on the place. Our office was a yacht that we rode through the intercoastal selling. I mean, I was living the ego-based life on South Beach, man.
Man, but that get that see, these are the things that really even I've been doing this show for 5 years and it still is crazy to this day. You weren't fulfilled with that. Like you still felt like there was more to do. Your office is a yacht on South Beach and you still weren't fulfilled.
Not only was I not fulfilled, I was absolutely miserable and depressed.
Oh my goodness.
I
I mean,
was.
listen, and I hate to, this is what happens on the show, by the way, but these are very, very important lessons that he's giving you because if your structure, if your foundation is off, it doesn't matter how well things look on the outside. I mean, you mentioned Walter Payton. One of the things about him that everyone that's in football knows is his stuff was burning on the inside of him. All right. There was a foundation there that was burning on the inside, and all of the stuff, and in this world with the social medias, the Instagrams, the whatever it is, you can go post and you can really get a lot of external likes that feed your ego and boost your ego, boost your ego system. But listen, what you just said is very powerful because I'm picturing it now. I'm on the beach. I love me some South Beach. If that was my office and I'm talking to celebrities, I'm living in 30 minutes, man. That wow. All right, but anyway, go ahead and explain, man, because
And if I went into
it's
any
important for
detail on
people
this,
to
you
learn.
would absolutely go, "You're a liar. That can't have happened." It
Yeah.
did happen. It was crazy, and you're like, "But Dave, that's what I was programmed to believe was
Mhm.
success."
Yeah.
And I wasn't feeling it. As a matter of fact, it was pulling my heart apart. It was like, this is not what I really want to do.
Right.
And that was the fascinating part because that put me on a journey of, okay, I've taken my ego to as far as I can go with it, and I'm still not happy.
Right.
What is missing? And that put me on a very soulful spiritual journey. And
Right.
that's what changed everything because once I started bringing faith back into my life and I stopped using my ego for all my decisions and I started listening to my soul
Hmm.
and I started integrating that, it was rough. People didn't accept me like that. They knew me, this ego person. That's their identity they had for me. So it was not an easy transition. People didn't welcome me into their arms all of a sudden. I've lost most of those people that were around me during those times, don't want to hang out with me now. And
Right.
that's the cost of that. But I
Hmm.
will tell you today, man,
Hmm.
I am in such joy and bliss and love for the life that I have. I'm
Right.
so grateful for everything that I have that this is the life that I want to share with people.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because one of the things that I made a point to start doing just about 6 months now is going to church every single Sunday, not missing a Sunday, paying my tithes and being clear of it because I moved to West Palm Beach. I didn't have any family or friends, and when my business was starting to move in the right direction, when I started working at this school, I started to like matter. But I knew that having that faith piece is so important for your next steps. You cannot walk into this world without faith because you will be swallowed up by some human being and somebody's agenda. I cannot stress the importance of that. Everybody out there got an agenda, but I mean, can you kind of speak on that a little bit? Because when it comes to the developing a walk of faith, eventually you got to kind of remove yourself from the human element a little bit, and that's always a challenge for individuals to do. So can you kind of speak a little bit about the importance of faith? And I'm not telling you what religion you have to have, but you have to have faith in something bigger than yourself.
Matter of fact, when you start really studying successful people
Mhm.
and success leaves clues,
Yeah.
then you start realizing that every single one of them has been able to perform at higher levels than they ever were able to from expecting from themselves when they
Mhm.
believed in something bigger than themselves. So, from an ego standpoint, if you really want to be better than you are, then you've got to bring this faith thing into it. You've got to make it bigger than you. And
Right.
that's what the whole company is designed around samurai success.
Right.
Samurai, loosely translated, means in service of others.
Hmm.
So, in service of others' success, that's the name of our company.
Yes.
And that drives us to remember who we are, what our mission, what our purpose is, and that what we're really being able to do that. Now, to be successful at that as one, the important part is this. If I'm going to truly be in service to you, if I'm truly going to be there for you,
Mhm.
then I can't have my stuff in the way. I can't be having this conversation with you going, hey, whatever you're saying, I can't wait for me to have my time to talk to you about whatever. And that's how most of our conversations happen.
Yep.
But if you're really going to get to this other approach to truly be in service to others, truly be a coach, a mentor, a teacher, then you've
Mhm.
got to learn how to get the hell out of your own way. You've got to get you out of the way so you can be present for somebody else. Because if not, you're just waiting for your time to talk. You're waiting for your time to heal something that you got going on, and you're not really listening to the other person. It's a
Yeah.
fascinating trap that the ego sets for us, and we get caught. I've gotten caught. I'm going to get caught later on today doing the same damn thing. But it's those moments of getting caught in that that allows me to remember who I am.
Right. Well, it's funny that you mentioned because just yesterday there was this meeting that went. I luckily I had to get here to do a podcast interview, but I was told that it went a whole 2 hours when it was supposed to be only like 20 minutes, and it was because it was filled with folks like you're describing that had to speak. And as soon as one person makes one comment, then I got to make comments. Some people on their phone they hear something now, I got to jump in the conversation with these devices that we have right here. Sometimes that art of conversation is so crazy because you can have somebody literally on their phone listening, but then jump into the conversation without even having the decency of listening to another person. And that is the part that I think it's very important to weed out of young people because even though they have the opportunity to have technology and listen to a lot or do a lot, connect with a lot of people, that those soft skills got to be reinforced in our system. And I bring that up because I want to give you the opportunity to speak to anybody that may be listening that you look at as an ideal client. Like you're not obviously with your business, you're not going to just work with anybody. Eventually, somebody got to be, hey, this is the person I'm looking for. If they're listening, can you kind of just describe the person that you would be looking to serve?
Yeah, a couple things. I would definitely let you know that smartphone that we have is such an amazing technology. The
Hmm.
technology is way beyond us because
It
we're
is.
so addicted to it,
Yeah.
right? And the thing is that this generation, whatever generation we're talking about, is going to go through this, and some of them are going to realize, hey, that tool is I'm supposed to be using it. It's not supposed to be using me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When that shifts, you can
My
yell and
niece and if my niece and nephew, Jaded, if you're listening, please rewind. I just had to pause that. I know this is a selfish moment, but you guys are teenagers now. If y'all are listening, please. I just want to make sure that one got directed to you. But anyway, go ahead, man.
well, then let me go even further.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about being compromised and then listening to somebody else being enslaved
Yeah.
by something, that's what this does. Whenever it takes control of you, you're a slave to it. You're
Yep.
addicted to that.
Hmm.
If you want to fight slavery in the way that exists today, fight that. Fight your own programming because this enslaves us today.
Yes.
We can turn the tide and we can embrace it and have it. We can use it, but you have to start from a different path. You have to start from a different source. And
Hmm.
that source that we talked about is your soul. Soul is connected to spirit.
Yes,
That
sir.
spirit soul connection to me allows me to go past my ego, to look beyond things, to solve things that seem unsolvable. All right. Because every solution to every problem already exists in the universe. God would not send us here without those solutions, man. We've forgotten the loving part of God for us. We need to remember that because we need to remember ourselves. Once we do that, we can connect to our soul, we connect to that source, and we connect to all the solutions that we're looking for. That's
Yeah.
first and foremost.
Right.
Our our wonderful clients are going to be people who are entrepreneurs, business owners, but there's two things that even before considering picking up the phone and calling us or anything else like that, you've got to be committed to your goals.
Mhm.
Now, as a coach, you already know this, so I'm just speaking to the rest of the
Mhm.
audience who may
Yeah.
not have heard this before. As a coach, the worst thing that can possibly happen is me being more committed to your goals than you are.
You are, yeah.
It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. There's nowhere to, so commitments first. Then
Mhm.
it's about fit, making sure you hire a coach, you attract a coach that fits you.
Right.
And that means you've got to know you. If you just go willy-nilly and just go, well, let's see what's on Google and number one person, and let's go with that person. You've got to do some research. You got to listen, this is an intimate art, as you know. It's going to get into your stuff. And if
Right.
you really want to share that stuff with a perfect stranger or somebody that really doesn't fit, okay, good luck. That's going to be a very different experience than what I'm sharing with you.
Right.
So, two things: commitment and fit. Once you understand your commitment to reaching your goals,
Mhm.
reaching out to us and letting know if we're going to be a fit for you. And we'll take you through a process before
Right.
you even sign up that says, are we a good fit? Because we will not work with you. We will not extend an invitation to you unless we know we're a good fit.
Right.
Why? Because it makes no sense.
Exactly.
What's the point of making money if you're not helping people? That's not who we are. That's not what we're after. And we'll
Right.
leave it to the rest of the folks that want to do things that way.
And on that point, it's crazy because you're speaking directly to me. I hired a coach about 4 years ago, and that's exactly what he actually said. Number one, you have to want the goal more than I wanted, but also again, he's a former professional athlete. He has tons of I mean, I thought I was producing content. This guy has like what 30 couple thousand videos out there, and yeah, a former player and all that. So. The fit is a really key thing because if you are a serious business owner, you're going to take your business like it's your life. It's going to be so personal to you that the coach that you share things with, you have to have that level of trust. You have got to have that. So the fit and the commitment to your goals is a very, very important thing. So I do want to be very respectful of your time, and we didn't have the opportunity to talk about your book yet. So can you just talk a little bit about your book, what's next, and what you got going on for the future?
So this concept of programming that we've been talking about today, which is really about, finding out who you are and how everything comes from that place.
Mhm. Go ahead, go
Um, no, yeah. How's it
ahead.
going?
Dr. Shada, by the way. Yes, yes, happy
Nice
to.
to meet you.
Yeah. She's great. She's great.
So I made a commitment, an agreement, a contract with the universe that if it shared this information with me about how this place works. So there's three things I was really focused on with the book, which is how the universe works spiritually, how this physical plane works, and then how, as a human being, do we interact with those two other dimensions.
Mhm.
That's been a fascinating thing with me. It's going to be my life's work about being able to understand this thing and the connections that go along with that.
Mhm.
So in the book, it starts to share with you about the elements of this thing we've been calling programming, right? Your
Right.
subconscious program that actually manifests things for you actually has structure to it. And that structure is presented to you in a fable, if you will, because my favorite way to approach conversations is through storytelling,
Mhm.
is to be able to really get to the place of what's the structure? How does someone else duplicate what you do? And so from the time I was in the Keys till now,
Mhm.
I've been studying successful people and I've been studying unsuccessful people. I wanted to have those contrasts to be, and by the way, the formula that's actually in the book, there's two books. We're writing the second book now. First book is out already,
Mhm.
and it gives you the first six swords of the full 12 swords, which make up the 12 elements of your programming.
Right. Huh.
How to change that programming is
Yeah.
in the book. So
Right.
I was like, what? That's what I wanted to share with the world because if we can talk with entrepreneurs, business owners, and the rest of the people and say, you have control
Mhm.
over the stuff you put in your brain. If you take that control back, this place will change overnight.
Right.
That's the power of it.
And also too, and I want to make sure because I heard you on a previous show saying that you had the book written, I believe, what in 2009 or something, but it didn't
Yes.
get
Yeah.
published. for another couple of years. So kind of speak on that a little bit in terms of the evergreen element. And I tell people all the time, look, outside of my own books, the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, that is one that absolutely changed the whole landscape for me. And you also have a book that changed your life as well. But when it comes to books and reading material, can you speak on the evergreen nature of it as well?
Gaining new knowledge is so essential to the process of evolution. It has to happen. You've got to be able to get out there. And if you're just ingesting the same stuff, you're hanging around people that agree with you all day long, you're not growing, you're not evolving, you're not going to get to that next thing that's about to come your way
Yeah.
called a pressure moment.
Hmm.
You won't be able to deal with it.
Right.
By preparing now is by getting around and arguing with people, debating things with people, having those conversations, getting out of your comfort zone. All
Right.
of those are in preparation to build a new part of you called your character so you can handle that pressure that's coming that you didn't even know was coming.
Hmm.
But be clear, man, as you know, that's what makes us valuable in this physical plane. You being able to deal with pressure situation. I mean, think about the sports analogies you and I talk about for the next 10 hours about,
Yes.
oh, what we respect about every single metaphor and every single sports thing. It's because how they handle pressure.
Pressure. Right. That's
By the way, you Michigan, for God's sake, on the goal line, you said, was that pressure?
please. I mean, this was all of this was full. And the thing is, so because I'm from Maryland, this was like my time being able to watch it with other diehard fans. I didn't have the opportunity. And when I was playing in college, I was always playing. I was on the team that was playing at Stony Brook. So I was around other folks that had the same PTSD whenever certain guys are about to catch the ball. It was an absolute nerve-wracking experience. And I'm just so damn happy we walked away with that win. So. All that being said, can you just tell people how they can get in touch with you if they want to hear more, if they want to reach out? Just go ahead and plug away, man.
Sure. You can reach us at samuraisuccess.com. Of course, that's our website. Samurai underscore success is our Instagram. We're on Facebook, YouTube. And by the way, we're brand new to this stuff. We're like third graders. We just started in February with all this information, but we've already got, I don't know, 100 different videos up or something like that, of different podcasts and different materials, things like that. So plenty of information for you before you even reach out to us to get to know us a little bit better.
Yeah, and that's the key too for anyone also. That's just another nugget. You got to put the material out there and then you'll figure out there's other folks that you can actually pay to help you when it comes to SEO and putting it out in certain ways. And now that we have AI, there's a lot of ways we could put a lot of material out. So, David, the way I close out all the shows is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back to being, let's say, 13, 12 years old. You're getting bullied and you finally find a place in which you can help your self-defense and all that. Pretend that that version of you has come into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
So in the book, as my moment of now being able to share this with you, the thing I would share absolutely the golden ticket to the future is that knowledge is not power. Application of that knowledge is power.
1000%.
And when you can do that, that's about developing your character. That's developing who you are. That's like developing your identity. This is something, and about the only thing you really get to create in this lifetime is who you say you are. Once you understand that power, then you can take this knowledge is power, which is not true. Knowledge applied is power. That's the real principle that you want to learn from that. That's what I would tell my 13-year-old self to be able to do this. Stop getting all this knowledge. Apply what you already know. And here's the most important part. Stop sharing it with other people. Go apply it first. Go see if it's real. Go have the experience of it before you share that. Because if you're just sharing knowledge and you have no experience of it, it's going to have a different reaction to people. It's going to have a different impact on people. And if you really want to help people, then you've got to go experience it. Feel what it feels like to experience your own, these principles you're sharing with everybody, see what they really work, and then share the experience of that.
Mm. Man, hey, that's profound. Like literally, because we're bringing up the Michigan, I purposely went on this trip on my own, and I remember my mother would tell me all the time, "Son, never be afraid of taking solo trips. because I talk about college football so much and because my business is built on the whole idea of college football, you need to go learn this on your own, see how this game affects people in all facets, and then look at how much more of a renewed energy I have, not even 24 hours, basically pretty much just 72 hours away from being in that environment. So never be afraid to go on your own, learn something and apply it. And it's not going to feel like work, guys. It really isn't. It's going to be something that you absolutely have to do. It'll burn on the inside of you. So, David, man, I am floored. I am so looking forward to staying in touch with you and all that and all that being said. Let me kind of close out before we end up going for another hour because we can actually talk for hours. Fellow
Absolutely.
teammates, make sure you guys check them out. All the stuff, all its links will be included in the show notes. Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.